But just how did Manson convince Wilson to welcome him and his family to live in his home, nearly reaping him of $100,000 over a period of 1 year? But also, how did such a man convince both men and women to join what members called the family? The answer is simple. On June 1st, 1960, Manson was serving a 10-year prison sentence at McNeil Island Penitentiary in Washington for prostitution and for passing stolen checks. It was here that he was taught to play steel guitar by lone survivor of the Depression-age Ma Barker gang, Alvin "Creepy" Karpus. The two developed a strong relationship, and the aging gangster admired Charlie's enthusiasm towards the instrument. In 1962, an annual report said of Manson, "Recently, he has been spending most of his free time writing songs, accumulating about 80 or 90 of them during the past year, which he ultimately hopes to sell following release. He also plays the guitar and drums, and is hopeful that he can secure employment as a guitar player or as a drummer or singer."
Music is my soul. Music's the way I express. It's my religion. It's my religion.
You also said sex is religion.
Yeah, sex is a reflection. Everything's a reflection of this. When you reflect that, you reflect music. I reflect it in music. That's me. But I put my soul into the sound.
So when Manson arrived in Frisco's epicenter for the emerging culture, Haight-Ashbury, on March 21st, 1967, he had just been released from Terminal Island Prison. Immediately upon his arrival from Los Angeles, he was able to attract people.
So when I get back out, and your kids pick me up out of the street and pick me up out of the garbage can, all I want is the little girls. I love them little girls. I'm following them little girls around. I ain't got no thought in my mind about nothing.
Right.
I'm not trying to stop nobody. I'm playing music. I'm free. It took me 22 years to get out of this hallway.
Charlie was what he needed to be at any given time. He was clearly an antisocial personality. He was superficial, he was glib, and he was very adaptable.
They picked me up. They said, "Kid, 16-year-old kid." I said, "Where do you sleep?" He said, "Where I lay down." I said, "Well, don't you have to have an apartment?" He said, "No, I sleep in the park." I said, "How do you do that?" He said, "Sleeping bag." I said, "Is that right? What do you eat?" He said, "Food." I said, "Man, where do you get it?" He said, "Wherever I can." I said, "Don't you have a job?" And he laughed at me. He said, "No, I go down to Diggers."
Yeah.
So I went down and I looked around and I said, "Hey, this is love here.
Yeah.
This is love here."
The best time of your life.
Yeah. It was the only time in my life. I never had no life before that. It's always been in here with these guys, man.
Charlie's reality was also a void of alienation. This is a guy who felt condemned, was born with nothing, and inherited nothing, and had nothing to lose. So those he gathered, now known as the family, was his vision of America's dispossessed white children.
I was living at the beach with my sister, and she came home and said to go down to a friend's house, which I did, and Charlie was there, and he was playing the guitar. And so I was introduced to him there. And I felt really loved by him almost immediately, mostly because I think at that point I was really desperate for someone to care. When we made love, all I remember is just crying and crying to this man. I mean, it was like, because he said, "Oh, you're beautiful." I couldn't believe that. I just started crying.
He said, "So your father just kicked you out of the house?" And that started it. It was easy to talk to him. And we talked on a number of levels. His mind intrigued me.
One of his things was to stop you during the day, and he'd put your palms up to his, and then he'd move them in any direction that he could. Or he'd make a series of faces, and then you were supposed to try to keep up with them. And
he's whatever a person wants to make of him. He's a mirror, actually.
The whole idea was to let time disappear. There was no time. We were all living now. Now was the only time.
See, at first, the magical mystery tour was that we would be cowboys or gypsies or pirates, and every day it was to wear a different role so that we would get more out of ourselves.
When I was with Charlie, we took anywhere between 30 and 40 trips on acid alone. That's not counting all the different times we took things like belladonna and smoked hashish a lot and smoked marijuana all the time, and psilocybin and mescaline and a little opium. We didn't mess around with any hard drugs.
When people would come and he wanted power over them, men, he would offer them whatever women he had. And he had certain women he always put out front, which he called his front street girls. They were the ones that he thought were the most beautiful, the ones that would be the most enticing. And that's what he would do. I mean, he was an excellent pimp.
All the guys had to get over all their homosexual things by doing everything that you could possibly think of doing with guys. And all the girls had to do everything they could possibly think of doing with girls. And all the virgins had to be fucked right off the bat, in super ways, and they would just completely flip out.
It's like I would feel like totally out of control, and yet I would watch him and he would seem totally in control. One of the things when I look back, I realized I didn't always see him take acid. I don't think he did.
What do you think it is about you that makes people want to be a part of whatever it is you're a part of?
I'm brand new. Everything I do is always brand new. I'm on the premise of reality. I walk a real road. I'm a real person.
Disguise yourself for your father. All is none, all is none, none is one.
Steve, throw me a chocolate ball. Easy.
Charlie managed to consume Dennis's allowance, his living allowance, which is considerable, but he managed to consume that every month, but in a week or so.
Dennis even had to pay for the family's medical bills, which he called the largest gonorrhea bill in medical history.
Mom, what is that famous disease?
Lock and nookie.
Since I was married twice, and I never messed around. I don't even...
I've never messed around.
I don't even know how I got this kid.
Dennis is rather innocent, isn't he?
And let's see, what else did he do? He wrecked that house out there. And he wrecked Dennis's Ferrari and I think part of the Rolls Royce, too.
The band management had to kick Manson off the property. After this, between 68 and 69, Manson and the family, they all went to Spahn Ranch in the desert.
Dennis, I think that he consciously was escaping to get away from Charles Manson.
He had a death wish, I think. It had to be, and so it was like...
Well,